Hey, have you ever had a moment in life where everything changed in an instant? Like, 1 second you're just living your day, and the next, nothing feels the same again. It's like life splits into two parts, before that moment, and after it. We've all been there. And today, we're talking about one of those moments. A night that started off like any other, but ended in a way that broke hearts all over the world. It happened on December 8, 1980. A cold night in New York City. Nothing unusual. Just another winter evening. But then, something happened that changed everything. Something the world never saw coming. John Lennon was taken from us. Yes, that John Lennon. The voice behind Imagine. The man whose music moved millions. The one who dreamed of peace, love, and a better world. So, what happened that night? Who did it? And why? Let's walk through the story together, step by step. No complicated facts. No fancy words. Just a real story about a man, a dream, and a heartbreaking end. Back in 1980, John Lennon was living a new kind of life. He wasn't just one of the Beatles anymore. He had taken a long break from music, 5 years, actually. He spent that time with his family. At home. Being a dad. Being a husband. No tours. No albums. No flashing lights. He baked bread. Took his son Sean to the park. He lived quietly. And for him, that was happiness. Just being present. Living in the moment. Then something changed. He started to feel inspired again. He missed music. Missed creating. Missed the connection. So, he decided to come back. He made a new album with Yoko Ono called Double Fantasy. It was about love. About home. About life. It wasn't just a comeback, it was a new beginning. He was excited. The fans were excited. John Lennon was back. And then, it all fell apart. There was a man. His name was Mark David Chapman. He was waiting outside the Dakota building, where John and Yoko lived. Holding a copy of Double Fantasy in his hand. He asked John for an autograph earlier that day. John smiled. Signed it. Just like that. Kind. Polite. Not knowing what was really going on in that man's mind. Because Chapman? He wasn't just a fan. He was obsessed. Unstable. Lost in his own dark thoughts. That night, around 10:50 p.m., John and Yoko returned home from the recording studio. They got out of their car. Walked toward the building. And Chapman was still there. Waiting. Suddenly, he pulled out a gun. And fired 5 shots. 4 of them hit John. Just like that, everything stopped. Yoko screamed. John collapsed. There was blood. Confusion. Silence. The doorman froze. People didn't know what to do. And Chapman? He just stood there. A nearby police officer heard the shots. He rushed over. There was no time to wait for an ambulance. They picked John up, and rushed him to Roosevelt Hospital in their patrol car. The officer said later, he was still breathing. They were hoping. Praying. But when they reached the hospital, it was too late. The doctors did all they could. But John Lennon was gone. He was only 40 years old. Just 40. Can you believe that? He had so much more life left to live. So many more songs to write. So much more to say. When the news broke, it hit like a thunderbolt. Radio stations stopped regular shows and played Imagine on repeat. Again and again. People couldn't believe it. Crowds gathered outside the Dakota. And not just in New York. In London. Tokyo. Sao Paulo. Everywhere. People held candles. They cried. They stood in silence. It wasn't just the loss of a celebrity. It felt personal. Because John Lennon meant something to people. He wasn't just a musician, he was a symbol of hope. Yoko Ono was devastated. She saw it happen with her own eyes. She lost her partner. Her love. Her child lost his father. And through that pain, she still had the strength to send a message to the world. She said, "John loved and prayed for the human race. Please do the same for him." She didn't want a funeral. No big memorial. Just one thing. She asked for 10 minutes of silence. And the world listened. For 10 full minutes, no music. No words. Just stillness. That silence said more than any speech ever could. Now maybe you're wondering, why did Chapman do it? What makes someone do something like that? Well, Chapman later said, he wanted to be famous. He felt like John was a phony, talking about peace while living in luxury. But the truth? Chapman was mentally unwell. Angry. Confused. He needed help. But instead, he chose to destroy something beautiful. John had just started planning a world tour. After 5 years away, he was ready to be back on stage. Back with the fans. Back doing what he loved. But that tour never happened. His last recordings included a song called "Grow Old With Me." It sounds like a gentle goodbye. Soft. Honest. Heartbreaking. It's like he was saying something. Even though he didn't know time was running out. And today, decades later, his music is still alive. John Lennon may be gone. But his message? His voice? His dream of peace? That still lives on. People still visit strawberry fields in Central Park. Still sing Imagine. Still feel his spirit. Whenever there's tragedy or pain. It's his songs people turn to. Why? Because they bring comfort. They give hope. John didn't just make songs, he created feelings. He made people think. He made them feel seen. He talked about a world without borders. Without greed. Without hate. And that dream? It's still worth believing in. So let me ask you something. Do you remember the first time you heard that John Lennon was gone? Like, really gone? Maybe you were just a kid. Maybe you were sitting at home, watching TV, and suddenly the news came on. Or maybe someone called you, their voice shaking, and you just froze. Or maybe you weren't even born yet. You didn't live through that exact moment, but you felt it. Felt the weight of it, years later. Because somehow, even if you weren't there, the story still hits you. That's the kind of loss this was. It wasn't just the end of a life. It was the loss of something bigger, an idea, a sound, a hope. And if you're like a lot of people, you probably remember the exact song that made you stop and think. Wow, he really was something special. Maybe it was Imagine. Or Across the Universe. Or maybe something less known, something quiet that just whispered to your soul. So, what's that one Lennon song that always stays with you? The one you play when you need comfort, or courage. Or when the world just feels like too much. Go ahead, drop it in the comments. I'd honestly love to know. Because even though John's gone, his music is still here. And we're all holding little pieces of it. Each in our own way. You know, when we lose someone who shaped our world, we don't just lose a person. We lose the feeling they gave us. That spark. That comfort. That gentle reminder that it's okay to feel things deeply. John Lennon gave the world permission to dream. To cry. To protest. To love. To imagine. And losing that? That was heavy. But here's the thing. Even in the silence that followed. Even in the heartbreak and confusion and headlines. There was something still there. The music didn't stop. The message didn't die. Because people carried it. Fans. Families. Strangers. They carried his words in their headphones. His voice in their living rooms. His dream in their hearts. Isn't that wild to think about? That one person, with one guitar, could still be changing lives even decades later? Not with power. Not with money. But with honesty. With heart. That's why this story still matters. That's why we tell it. Because in a world that's noisy, angry, and divided, John Lennon reminded us of something simple. That love matters. That peace is possible. And that every single person has a voice worth hearing. So if this story touched your heart today, if it made you pause, or tear up, or feel something you haven't felt in a long time, then I want to invite you to go just a little deeper. Check out our next video. The untold truth behind Imagine, the song that changed the world. We dig into the lyrics. The controversy. The real story behind the song people either adore, or misunderstand. And I promise you, once you see that video, you'll never hear Imagine the same way again. Because songs like that, they're not just music. They're mirrors. They show us who we are. Who we were. Who we could still become. And hey, if you've made it this far in the video, thank you. Really. You didn't just click and scroll away. You stayed. You felt this. You shared this moment with me. So if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps more people find stories like this. And if you're new here, consider subscribing. We talk about more than just celebrities here. We talk about the moments that make us human. The messy ones. The beautiful ones. The ones that leave a mark. Because behind every headline, every song, every famous face, there's always a story. A lesson. A heart. And I think those stories deserve to be told with care. You know, we live in a world that moves so fast. Scrolling, swiping, skipping, forgetting. But stories like John Lennon's, they ask us to slow down. To listen. To feel. Music isn't just sound. It's memory. It's emotion. It's a time machine. You ever hear a song from years ago and suddenly, you're there again? That smell, that feeling, that person, it all comes rushing back. Music does that. It holds on when everything else fades. And John Lennon? He understood that better than anyone. He knew how to take raw truth and wrap it in melody. He didn't just sing about love, he lived it. He didn't just imagine peace, he believed in it. And even when the world pushed back, even when people mocked him, doubted him, or turned their backs, he kept dreaming. He kept writing. He kept hoping. That's what I hold on to. That even in his darkest moments, he never stopped hoping for something better. And maybe that's what we need most right now. Not perfection. Not fame. Just hope. A little light in all the noise. A reminder that kindness isn't weakness. That connection still matters. So before we go, I want to leave you with this. Wherever you are right now, whatever you're going through, whatever pain you're carrying or joy you're chasing, you are not alone. And there's always music. Always that one song that finds you when you need it most. That one voice that makes you feel understood. Maybe, for you, that voice is Lennon's. Maybe it's someone else. But either way, hold on to it. Let it lift you. Let it guide you. Let it remind you that this world, for all its mess and chaos, still has beauty in it. And as long as we keep listening, as long as we keep sharing these stories, as long as we keep imagining something better, then John Lennon's dream? It's still alive. Still real. Still worth fighting for. Thank you for being here. Thank you for feeling this with me. Thank you for remembering. Until next time. Peace. And love.